This little song here is entitled, It Ain't the Booze That Hurt You, It's the Chaser. Well, it ain't the booze that hurt you, it's the chaser. It's not whiskey, gin, or even skin bracer. Too much sodic pop and mix, even water makes you sick. But it ain't the booze that hurt you, it's the chaser. If you're going out tonight to celebrate, take a look at one who's been there before. I've had my ups and downs in 100 different towns, and I've slipped on 1,000 barroom floors. But it ain't the booze that hurt you, it's the chaser. That works on your mind like an eraser. If you're sick as you can be, blame the coffee or the tea. But it ain't the booze that hurt you, it's the chaser. When you look into the mirror the morning after, and you see a face you hardly recognize, through bloodshot eyes and pain, you must face the world again. But there's one thing we all must realize. It ain't the booze that hurt you, it's the chaser. That makes you reach for the Alka-Seltzer. It's the 7-Up and Coke that makes you gag and choke. But it ain't the booze that hurt you, it's the chaser. Here's a kind of a little tearjerker entitled, My Girl Caught Her Nose in a Keyhole and Now She's Something to Adore. Take the curlers from your hair. Put your girdle in its place. Put away your underwear. Smear the cold cream on your face. Come and lay down by my side. Just don't try to start a fight. All I'm charging is a dime. You get the bargain rate tonight. I don't care what's right or wrong. It don't matter, can't you see? Let my wife find out tomorrow. But tonight it's you and me. Though my youth is dead and gone, we can drink and both get tight. I ain't the man I used to be. Help me fake it through the night. Yeah, boy. I ain't the man I used to be, but I'm going to fix that. Well, get me some of them new pills they got out called a rejuvenation pill. Makes a young man out of an old man just like that. But you got to swallow them quick or you'll get a stiff neck. Hey, did you hear about the woman who got her birth control pills and her aspirins all mixed up? Went through 3 pregnancies without a headache. At least the aspirins worked. I broke one of them birth control pills open one time. You know what and they're kind of green inside. You know what that green stuff is in a birth control pill? That's Absorbin Junior. What? Why, they've even got a birth control pill for men these days. It's a rather large thing. It's got sharp points on it. And you don't swallow it. You put it in the heel of your shoe and it makes you limp. Here's a little tune. Used to be called Frankie and Johnny, but more recently I call it Jimmy and Tammy. Well, Jimmy and Tammy were sweethearts. The way they loved was a sin. She loved to be in the spotlight. He loved other men. Sometimes women like Jessica Hahn. Jimmy said, you gotta love everybody. You gotta treat them all the same. You don't do as I do, but do as I say. That's the way we play the game, Tammy and me. And the sucker makes three. Well, they started a TV program and preached against all sin. Send your dough and we'll save your soul. Oh, how the money rolled in. They were riding high. They couldn't do no wrong. Well, they built a mighty mansion and a doghouse fit for a king. One day the walls come tumbling down. The choir refused to sing. Oh, you're gonna reap just what you sow. Then up stepped Jerry Falwell and the Internal Revenue. He said the PTL is going broke and it's all because of you. You shot your wad. You gotta pay your dues. Tammy ran out of makeup and Jimmy ran out of steam. He said, it's time to move along. We'll start all over again on down the road where the grass is green. Now then, Jimmy Swaggart is in hot water and he's going down the drain. He accused Jimmy Baker of being immoral while he was doing the same damn thing. They're all alike, and it's a doggone shame. Oral Roberts needs a lot more money, or the Lord's gonna call him home. How many TV preachers is fit to cast the first stone? The wheel goes round and the game goes on. Well, there's a moral to this story. If you play, you gotta pay. All you cheaters who break the rules will have to learn the hard way. What goes up is bound to come down. Them TV preachers, you know, some of them think they're so smart they could even be president of the United States. I don't know. All these guys thinking they can be president don't have any more experience than I do. I was telling the reporter this spring when there's there's about 100 of them going to run for president. I told this reporter, I said, well, I'm as well qualified as half of them people or more. I said, I think I'll run for president. He said, you run for president? I said, sure. He said, well, you got to know what's going on in the world. I said, I know what's going on in the world. He said, what platform would you run on? I said, what do you mean platform? I don't need a platform. Just get on TV and win a few votes. He said, no. He said, you got to have the backing of the big organizations or a major political party or unions to go anywhere in politics. You got to have the backing of that. He said, what party do you belong to anyway? I said, well, I don't belong to any organized political party. I'm a Democrat. He said, well, let me ask you a few questions to see how you stand on the issues. He said, what do you think of the current situation? I said, well, I think there's going to be plenty of currents for everybody. I haven't heard of any shortage of currents. I just soon have raisins anyhow. He said, no, that ain't what I mean. He said, I mean, what do you think of the international crisis? I said, well, we had an international truck down on the farm once for 30 years. And an international tractor, probably still running. Darn good equipment. If they make an international crisis, I'd buy one of them too. He's looking at me kind of fishy-eyed, but then, you know, he said, you know, I think you're nothing but a moron. I said, I'm not a moron, I'm a Presbyterian. Don't call me a moron, I've never been in the state of Utah in my life. He said, well, let's see something else here. Let me ask you a couple more questions. He said, what do you think about them legalizing marijuana? I said, no, that's a cute little town. I was down there last winter and I had a good time. They'd legalize it, it'd ruin the whole thing. He said, well, how about the women's lip movement? I said, lip movement really moves, don't it? Them girls do like to talk. My wife's going a mile a minute all the time. Thinks she was vaccinated with a Victrola needle. Yakety, yakety, yak. One time she talked 54 hours without stopping. And the fun thing about it was she did it all in one day. And then he explained to me, no, he said, not lip movement, lib. Women's liberation. He said, don't you believe in women's suffrage? I said, you're darn right. Let them suffer. He said, you know, most of the states have brought back capital punishment for major crimes. He said, do you think women should be hung the same as men? I said, no way, I'll shoot myself. Oh, he said, I've never seen a guy like you before in all my life. He said, one more question. What do you think of the Afghan position? I said, well, guess it's all right. A couple others I like better. Makes my wife's knees sore. He said, you got to be the dumbest guy I've ever seen in my life. I said, I am not dumb. He said, you're the dumbest guy I've ever seen. He said, you're so dumb. He said, I'll bet you don't even know where the capital of the United States is. I said, I do so. It's all over Asia and South America. He just grinned. He seen I had him then, see? He seen I had him then. He just grinned, shook my hand, said, you might be the right guy after all. Hey, it's summertime. Thank you. Let me do you a little tune here. It's kind of appropriate for this time of the year. It's for all these people with campers, you know, and trailers. It's called The Trailer Next to Mine, or if it's rocking, don't bother knocking. In the good old summertime, in the trailer next to mine, the lights go out at 8 o'clock. They don't get up till 9. They pull the shades way down low, and that's a mighty good sign. There's hanky-panky going on in the trailer next to mine. Hey, you been there, huh? Yeah, a lot of them do make a lot of trips this time of the year, the campers and the trailers and the motor homes, and you look out on the highway and there's trucks and buses are whizzing up and down the road and people vacation. And you know how they keep awake on these long trips? You guys, a lot of you have tried it, I'm sure. They stop at these little roadside grocery stores and stock up on these Hostess cream-filled cupcakes. munch on them things for a little burst of energy once in a while. Keep them awake while they're driving, you know. Well, this next song's a little story about a couple of guys that have that same problem. It's called He Died with a Ding-Dong in His Hand. Don't leave, it won't get any worse. Well, he was eating Twinkies as he rolled along the highway, listening to the DJs playing songs from all the bands. He didn't see that semi as it came around the corner, and he died with the ding-dong in his hand. Yes, he died with the ding-dong in his hand. They scattered cupcakes all across the land. He wasn't taking no dose, he was thinking about his ho-hos, and he died with the ding-dong in his hand. There was a country singer who was always eating zingers. He picked guitar in a red-hot country band. That band was really smoking. They didn't hear him choking, and he died with the ding-dong in his hand. Yes, he died with the ding-dong in his hand. And the last song he sang was really grand. He thought he was the mostest till he bit into that hostess, and he died with the ding-dong in his hand. Oh yes, die with the ding-dong in your hand. It's the only way to go, you understand. Lord, I hope and pray when I reach that final day, I'll die with the ding-dong in my hand. This is a story about Rendicella and the Pransome Hints. It's an unusual story that'll make your crash fleet. It'll give you poos gimples. A long time ago, Cinderella lived in a big harked house with her mean old Mepstother and two sisty ugglers. Now, they made Cinderella do all the wordy-dirk, like flopping the moors and whopping the chud. She was a very good chud whopper. While all they did was sit around on their fig bannies. One day, the two sisty ugglers came to Cinderella and said, "The Pransome Hints is throwing a fancy dress ball, and we're going to go. Don't you wish you could?" Well, of course Cinderella wanted to go. So she went to her mean old Mepstother, who was busily magging a Rita-zine and cheating an ocklet. She says, "Ma, the Pransome Hints is throwing a fancy dress ball. May I go?" "Certainly not, you birdy little dastard. Back to the kitchen." So Cinderella went back with ears in her ties and was just about to chick-a-say a frickin' when all of a sudden there was a blinding flash of flight, and there appeared a beautiful berry. "Who are you and what do you want?" said Cinderella. "I'm your Gary Fodmother. I've come to want you a grish. What would you like most in all the world?" "Well," said Cinderella, "I would like to go to the Pransome Hints fancy dress ball and have the handsome prince fall leaply and dove with me." "That's quite a wish," said the fairy, "but it shall be granted." So she waved her magic wand, and lo and behold, Cinderella was transformed into a Babishing Rudy. She wore a low-cut gapless strown, and on her feet were slashed glippers. "Now you may go to this dance," said the fairy, "but you must promise me to be mid by home night," or something like that. Cinderella said she'd try, so they went outside. And again the fairy waved her magic wand. There appeared a beautiful barriage drawn by 6 Hort-Wises. Cinderella leaped into the carriage and was off to a flying start. Flying start. Now then, when she got to the dance, who do you reckon the first 2 people was she saw? Them 2 sisty ugglers. Cinderella walked right up to them bugly itches. And she was so beautiful, they didn't even cinderize Reckonella. And the Prancing Hints came over and he says, may I dab this Hans? And they dance and they dance and they dance and they dance and they dance. Till all of a sudden, the clock twixt 12. And Cinderella mashed daddily out of the hall. And when she did, she slopped her dripper. Prancing Hints came along behind her there and he picked it up and he says, the furl whose gut this flipper slits is the one I'll marry. That's the hard part there. So the next day, the Prancing Hints goes throughout all the kingdom and docks on all the oars. And all the ladies try on the slash clipper, but their beak were too fig. Came to the house of the mean old Mepstother, and the two sisty ugglers tried on the slash clipper. Their beak were too fig also. Even the mean old Mepstother tried it on. She couldn't even get her tig bow in. Finally, Cinderella tried on the slash clipper, and the shoe fit. Some of them I leave alone. It fit perfectly, and they were married and lived happily ever after. Now, the moral to this story is, some of our subbles may be trawl, and some of our bubbles may be trig. But if we trad no hubbles, how would we blacken size our ressings?
Well, let's do this little tune called Thank God It's Friday Again. Thank God it's Friday again. I thought the week never would end. I'm sick and I'm tired and I nearly got fired. Thank God it's Friday again. Monday I woke up in pain, afraid of what each hour would bring. The weekend was lost, and I'll hide from the boss till my head starts to clear up again. Tuesday and Wednesday were hell. Thursday I still wasn't well. I still couldn't eat, and I'm getting weak. I feel like I'm over the hill. Thank God it's Friday again. I thought the week never would end. My wife said I lied and she locked me outside, and I doubt if she'll let me back in. By Friday the misery is gone, so I'll stop in the bar just for one. I'll cash my check, and then what the heck? Another lost week has begun. Oh, why do I torture me so? Why can't I ever say no? It's a struggle, you see, twixt the devil and me, and it looks like he just won't let go. Everybody, thank God it's Friday again. I thought the week never would end. If I live through this one, I'll get on a good one. Thank God it's Friday again. Salita free holy, a real red hot tamale, a tostada, and bowl of chili on the side. Enchilada, refried beans, and some good old turnip greens. Mucho onions and hot peppers make you cry. Sigh, sigh. I'll be there where you left me,
called me a slob because I like to drink and wouldn't get a job. If it's lonesome round the shack and you miss my cold feet on your back, I'll be there before the next beer can fall. You've all heard of that old tune called Margie? Margie? I got a different version of it. Oh, Margie, in all your desperation, Margie, you took advantage of me when you knew I didn't have much class. I was so drunk with both hands I couldn't find my glass, Margie. It's your frustration that will cause you misery. After all is said and done, you know I'm not the only one. So Margie, don't name it for me. I'm going to do you one more of these classical numbers here, and then we'll get back to the dance music. This is that little tune entitled, I Kissed Her Ruby Red Lips and Left Her Behind for You. Or Naoma from Tacoma. In a bar in Tacoma sat a girl named Naoma with tattoos on both of her arms. She started to dance without even her pants. I just stood and stared at her charm. The crowd whistled and hollered, some throwed her $1. The thought that I had was a sin. Her boobies were bobbing and my heart was throbbing. I couldn't wait for the music to end. Well, I wanted to know her, so I crawled a bit closer, and I thought to myself, what a mess. Her belly had wrinkles, on her hips she had dimples, and a big hickey there on her chest. I offered her money, she said, don't be funny, you'll just have to wait there in line. The next time comes sooner, and we'll have a nooner. Right now, I don't have the time. You picked a fine time to make me a deal. Go take a cold shower, forget how you feel. There's 21 others, sex-hungry mothers, with a crop of wild oats in the field. You picked a fine time to make me a deal. You picked the wrong time to make me you hear. This little song's taken from a famous Scandinavian folk song entitled She Wouldn't Do It for a Norwegian, but She Would for a Finn. On her back was Brazil, on her chest was Bunker Hill, and just a bit below was old Mexico. Upon her knee was Tennessee. In them hills I longs to be. Around her waist was Greece, and down the road a piece I saw those West Virginia skies. When in came my wife, and just to save my life, I let the rest of the world go by.
It's called My Girl Went to Sleep in a Wheat Field and Dreamed She Was Reaped. Or them old stubble fields back home. When I was a little bitty shaver, my mama would frown on my behavior in them old stubble fields back home. It took much determination to keep me off of the reservation in them old stubble fields back home. When them willows start to weepin', then it's time for teepee creepin'. In the spring or fall or summer, I would roam. It was up the Umatilla River. She wanted more than I could give her in them old stubble fields back home. When it comes to fine romances, I have taken many chances in them old stubble fields back home. With an hourglass figure she was gifted, but the sands of time have shifted in them old stubble fields back home. First her pa was only curious, then he started getting furious when he saw how big his girl had grown. Instead of being tall in the saddle, I'm up the creek without a paddle in them old stubble fields back home. In them old stubble fields back home. Well, I found my thrill on Emmigrant Hill, way up on Cabbage Hill. I took the old road where I found you, and I got shook up and scared half to death when you held your breath till you turned blue. The look in your eyeball said, beware of you. You had a cold in the head, I caught the flu. Look so forlorn when I stepped on your corn. Too bad you were born on Emmigrant Hill. Now here's where it gets juicy. The radio played, we started to dance. Then you got afraid and lost your chance. Now winter's near, I'm sorry, my dear. You'll freeze your, I fear, on Emmigrant Hill. Tiny boobies on her chest, one points east, the other points west. Tiny boobies is all she's got. But they're different 'cause one is cold and the other is hot. Here's to the big balloons. Here's to the C-cup size. And mostly here's a toast to those homogenized tiny boobies in the hand. Makes me sexy 'cause they feel so grand. Itsy bitsy boobies, all covered with foam. I get a feeling that I'm gonna love you till the cows come home. Now ain't that nice?
Which brings us up to the baseball story. Every year between George Berthington's wash day and Paint Satrix, all the Legion League baseball players head south for their train spraining like a flock of pigeons. From the first back of the crowd in the spring till the end of September. And the last mount is aid in the World Series. Billions of meeple stacking to the pans to see their favorite teams play. And to cheer on such stars as old Mackie Mennel and Millie Ways and Carmen Hillebrew. For the sports lovers, there are many wonderful games, such as hockey and Hoff, basketball and football. But the number one Asparagus Mort is baseball. And I'm going to tell you a little about the game. First of all, there are 9 sayers on each plide. There's a patcher and a catcher, a burst faceman and a backing salesman, and the start shop, and the bird thaseman. In the outfield, we have a fef leader, a finner sealer, and a fight reeler. Now, the catcher's the one with the mig bit. And he also wears a mace fask and a test protector. And you'll find him squatting behind hind plate looking like something from Spout or Ace. He sieves a gignal, and the witcher pines up and tries to bowl the throw a bass patter, who in turn tries to hit the ball and dock it down the thritcher's pote. Steve strikes and the adder is bout, but if the batter has bore falls, he gets to walk to Burr's face. Proudly, yes. If he hits the ball, then he runs like a hat out of bell. And if it's a close play, the fit really hits the shan. There are mayors and planagers, ref pyres and umpirees, even their Botterwoy, all in one big mell of a hess. The fans are screaming ill a compire and yelling like a loona bunch of ticks. Finally, after 9 innings, the aim is over and the team with the skiggest bore wins. Then comes the fun. Just try to leave the park. If you grandly get out of the fine stand, you might as well leave your car in the larking pot and sub the catchway. Crete stars and taxi tabs are always low overloaded, so maybe you walk. When you do get home, you're in for it. Your cupper's sold and your wife's as mad as an old hettin sin. Not only are you in the hog douse, but you've after lost your noon's pay and feel like you've been back through a drag hole knotwards. No wonder they call it America's favorite pastime. It's a ball. 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Sure nice to see people loving high-class entertainment. Speaking of that Hong Kong flu, do you know what the Chinese prostitute named her baby? What went wrong? Do you believe in China that they let their fingers do the walking through the white pages? That's the reason they don't have too many telephones in China, you know. There's so many wings and wongs, somebody's always winging a wong number.
I heard about a Japanese prostitute who went bankrupt. Nobody had a yen for her. You know what they call pantyhose in Japan, don't you? No nuki sake. Sure got some dirty-minded people here tonight, haven't we? In China, they never eat chili. Hi, yi, yi, yi. In China, they never eat chili. If you like this verse, the next one is worse. So waltz me around again, Willie. Jack and Jill went up the hill. Each had $1 and a quarter. Jill came down with 2.5. You think she went after water? Aye, 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 aye. In China they never eat chili. The next verse is worse than the first verse. So waltz me around again, Willie. Damon and Pythias were the best of friends. To prove this to each other, they would go to no ends. One day Pythias called Damon a skunk. So Damon went out and got Pythias drunk. Aye, 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 aye. In China they never eat chili. The next verse is worse than the last verse. Oh, waltz me around again, Willie. Mary had a little lamb. She also had a bear. I've often seen Mary's lamb, but I've never seen her bear. Hi, yi, yi, yi. In China they never eat chili. The next verse is worse than the last verse. So waltz me around again, Willie. Chinaman City all day long, waiting for a bad girlie come along. Bad girlie come along, sit on his lap. 9 days later, hi, yi, yi, yi. In China they never eat chili. The next verse is worse than the last verse. So waltz me around again, Willie. Streetcar and a cow had a wreck one day. Streetcar knocked spigots off the cow, they say. One spigot lit in an old maid's hand. She screamed, "Good Lord, they've killed the motor man." Aye, 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 aye. In China they never eat chili. It's the end of my song. It ain't very long, but oh my gosh, ain't it silly? Well, some folks wanted to hear this song I do about the dirty old rooster. Now this is a tender little ditty. We had some chickens, but no eggs would they lay. We had some chickens, but no eggs would they lay. My wife says, "Honey, we're losing money. We've got some chickens, but no eggs will they lay." Then one day a rooster came in our yard. He caught them chickens right off of their guard. They're laying eggs now, just like they used to, ever since that rooster came in our yard. Now we had a milk cow, but no milk would she give. We had a milk cow, but no milk would she give. My wife says, "Honey, we're losing money. We've got a milk cow, but no milk will she give." Then one day that rooster came in our yard. He caught that milk cow right off of her guard. Now she's given eggnog in buckets and jars ever since that rooster came in our yard. Now we had a dog, but no pups would she give. We had a dog, but no pups would she give. My wife says, "Honey, don't you think it's funny?
We've got a dog, but no pups will she give. Then one day that rooster came in our yard. He caught that dog right off of her guard. Now she's giving poached eggs out there in the barn. Ever since that rooster came in our yard. Now we had a gum tree, but no gum would it give. We had a gum tree, but no gum would it give. My wife says, honey, we're losing money. We've got a gum tree, but no gum will it give. Then one day that rooster came in our yard. He caught that gum tree right off of its guard. Now it's giving chiclets out on each limb. Ever since that rooster came in our yard. Now the last time that rooster came in our yard, he attacked a statue we had that was hard. Now that old rooster can't do like he used to. Ever since that statue caught him off of his guard. Let's see if I can get through this little song here. It's a little bit different. It's called Ain't It a Beauty? Oh, ain't it a beauty? And if you don't believe me, ask my wife. Well, I've used it a lot in the summertime. I've used it a lot in the fall. I'm willing to bet the spring of the year I use it most of all. If I should ever get too weak to hold it in the air, I've instructed my wife to handle it with tender love and care. Oh, ain't it a beauty? And I will use it proudly all of my life. Oh, ain't it a beauty? And if you don't believe me, ask my wife. Last winter it was freezing and the snow was deep and cold. It was a little more stiff than usual, and I was feeling bold. The neighbors watched with envy when I hauled it out to play. I wrote my name in a snowbank that was over a block away. Oh, ain't it a beauty? And I will use it proudly all of my life. Oh, ain't it a beauty? And if you don't believe me, ask my wife. Now, neighbor O'Toole came by today and told me he had heard that mine was longer than his was, but he didn't believe a word. So I bet him a buck and hauled it out and laid it in the street. He couldn't believe it when he saw it was over 100 feet. Oh, ain't it a beauty? And I will use it proudly all of my life. Oh, ain't it a beauty? And if you don't believe me, ask my wife. Now, I've used it a lot in the summertime. I've used it a lot in the fall. I'm willing to bet the spring of the year I use it most of all. And you can be rest assured that I'll be using it for years. 'Cause it's the finest length of garden hose that was ever sold at Sears. Oh, ain't it a beauty? And I will use it proudly all of my life. Oh, ain't it a beauty? And if you don't believe me, ask my wife. Before we do another sing-along, let me sing you another one of my homemade songs. This woman comes home with all these high-priced gifts and prizes every few weeks and telling her old man she's winning all this stuff playing bingo. You've heard the joke, some of you, I'm sure, but here's the song I wrote to go with it. Well, Harry was a traveling man who worked away from home. He'd be gone for a month or so and leave his wife alone. Martha had a lot of time with nothing much to do. Once while he was gone away, she started working too. When he came home, he smiled and said, "Look at all the money I've made." Then she drug out a suitcase full and said, "See how much I've saved?" Well, his eyes got big and he finally said, "Where did you get that dough?" "While you were gone, I got lonesome and took up playing bingo. And I've got another game tonight, so be a good guy, please. While I finish up my chores, go draw my bath for me." When she jumped into the tub, she yelled, "Is a half an inch all I get?" He said, "We don't want to ruin your bingo card by getting it all wet." I'll never forget my first experience with golf. Sitting in a bar down there in Louisville, Kentucky, one Saturday afternoon, they had a sports program on TV. This is years ago. Sitting there talking to some guy, and he found out I was an entertainer, a musician, and he said, "You must have a lot of spare time. What's your hobby?" I said, "Hobby? What do you mean, hobby?" He said, "Hobby's what you do for amusement in your spare time." I said, "Oh, I hunt and I fish. Hunt for girls and fish for dates." He said, "Did you ever play past your pool?" I said, "Past my what?" "Past your pool." He said, "That's a term for golf." I said, "No, I don't know anything about that." Well, he said, "Pay attention. I'll tell you how the game's played. You might enjoy it." He said, "First of all, in this game of golf, you have to have balls." He said, "Do you have balls?" I said, "Yeah, I thought we all did." Well, he said, "Bring your balls with you in the morning and we'll tee off." I said, "What's a tee?" He said, "A tee's a little thing about the size of your little finger." I said, "I got one of them." Well, he said, "Bring your balls and your tee and your whole outfit, and we'll tee off at 10 o'clock in front of the clubhouse." No, he says, "Now then, the first step of this game of golf, you stick your tee in the ground and put one of the balls on top of it." I said, "You play this game sitting down?" He said, "No, standing up." I said, "Hey, that's stretching it a little bit, ain't it?" "We'll tee off in front of the clubhouse at 10 o'clock in the morning." I said, "That'd be a little embarrassing, wouldn't it? I usually tee off in back of the barn." "Now then," he says, "you take your club." He said, "You know how to hold your club?" I said, "After all these years, I got a pretty good idea." All right. He says, "You take your club in both hands and swing it way back up over your shoulder." I said, "Not me, buddy." They don't call me Shorty because I'm 6 feet tall. All right, they says, "You take your club and you hit the ball real hard and it soars and soars and soars." I said, "I'll bet it does." I said, "Okay, now what do I do?" Well, he says, "Now you're on the first green." "You know what a green is?" I said, "No, what's a green?" He said, "The green's where the hole is." I said, "Are you colorblind?" He said, "No, you're on the first green. So now you take your putter." I said, "What's a putter?" He said, "The putter is the smallest club there is." I said, "That's what I got."
Okay, he says, now you take your putter and you put the ball in the hole. I said, no. You mean you put the putter in the hole, don't you? No, he said, the hole ain't big enough for the ball and the putter both. I said, buddy, I've seen some that would... Never mind. I said, okay, then what do I do? He said, well, from then on, it's real simple. You just go on to the next 17 holes. I said, 17 more? He said, yes, you can make 18 holes in a day. I said, usually it takes me 18 days to make one. I said, okay, then what happens? He said, that's it. You get to the 18th hole, there's a red flag up there, and it's all over with. I said, just my damn luck. I refuse to play your stupid game.
One more good little old tune from down on the border there entitled, She Was Born South of the Border, But She Come Across. Oh, the stars are bright, they're quite a sight, deep in the heart of Texas. Like my gal's teeth, they come out at night, deep in the heart of Texas. Oh, I picked her up in a pickup truck, deep in the heart of Texas. All I did was talk, so she got out and walked, deep in the heart of Texas. Well, I know every part of what I'm deep in the heart of. Oh, the rabbits rush around the brush, deep in the heart of Texas. They say wham bam, thank you ma'am, deep in the heart of Texas. Oh, the coyotes wail, they want some tail, deep in the heart of Texas. The cows moo moo, they want some too, deep in the heart of Texas. On the Commode Again, just can't wait to get on the Commode again. I've been out all night drinking with my friends. I can't wait to get on the Commode again. Been eating chili beans, and they always go straight through, it seems. Sauerkraut and green apples, they just ain't my friend. I can't wait to get on the Commode again. On the Commode again. Seems like I've been sitting here for half my life, and the other half standing by the door just waiting for my wife to let me in. I'm running out of luck, I'm in a hurry and my zipper's stuck. Ain't this a stinking way for a song to end? I can't wait to get on the Commode again. Oh, thank you. You sure are a good bunch. Says, oh, look at my watch. I see it's time I ran over to the motel and checked my traps. No, I am going to take a little break here, a little breather, folks. You've been real good to me, and I don't want to overdo it here. You're so nice. And besides, I'm starting to get a little dry up here talking and singing. I got to check out and see how this last batch came out. Don told me he was running off a new batch this last week. And I'll be right back after a short stall for Geritol. I'm a-thanking you.